All right, I want to talk a little bit about stretching the hip flexor muscle group, and I like to use a stretch called the half kneeling hip flexor stretch in order to stretch that group of muscles. But one of the problems that I often run into when I'm coaching clients and athletes with this stretch is that they tend to substitute lumbar hyperextension, which basically looks like this, for actual hip extension. And so the result is we really, so I'll have people who can't even feel the stretch on their hip flexor, even when they're out here, because they're hyperextending that lower spine, tilting the pelvis forward. So we need to learn how to stabilize that pelvis if we're actually going to get this stretch and make it effective, okay? So I'll show from this posture right here. Again, I like the half kneeling stance, okay? And then I want my student athletes or my clients to think about keeping that pelvis level. Think of it as like a cup of water, and we don't want to pour the water out of the pelvis as we go into that stretch. And that's what's happening when we arch that lower back and we let it roll forward like this. So I want to stabilize that pelvis. Water does not spill out of the pelvis as I go into this stretch. So in order to do that, I got to engage the abdominal muscles. So I'm here and not really sloppy in the core. So abs in tight, belly button, squeeze that belly button down towards the spine. And then I start everybody off in a flexed hip posture. And then abs tight, glutes tight. Let's go into that stretch. And now I'm stretching this left hip flexor, okay, without arching my lower back, making sure all the stretch is going right here on the hip flexor. You can see I really don't have a ton of range of motion here, okay? Another way I like to use this stretch is not just to hold it for a static posture, like 30 seconds at a time or something like that, but to make it an active stretch where it actually gets really good glute activation. And so that would look like this. I'd start hip flexed, squeeze the glute, hold for 2 counts, and then repeat.